One really important thing you have to understand is CELPIP reading is not about keywords only. So you look at the keywords here in the question, go here in the passage and find the answer. This is not the IELTS exam. This exam relies on your understanding and interpretation. And the other thing you want to understand is there are not 10 steps, 10 strategies that will make this work. There are only 2. We're going to cover them in this video. We'll cover first the most important strategy, which is understanding, interpretation, and it's really not as hard as it seems. It's very easy and you're key to really figuring out the answers. In the second half of the video, we're going to again use this practical example in front of us and we will answer questions, and that's where our strategy number 2 is applied. Use these 2 steps and you'll see just with this practical demonstration how easy this becomes. This is practice test 4, so that's the hardest part in CELPIP reading. Here we have again the argument between people. So if you're reading questions, which is what you should start with, you would see the first question, something like this, which I always tell people to just delay until the end. It says, what is the primary objective of implementing sponge cities in urban landscapes? So this whole thing is about sponge cities, and this is asking you the primary objective of the whole thing. So we'll leave that for the end. We do those kinds of questions when we have understood the whole idea. But let me jump into a question, something like this, where we have a person talking, and we'll pick another one with a person talking, because it's usually an argument between 2 people when we're dealing with part 4. So question number 2 says, Dr. can't pronounce it, Wang believes sponge cities are primarily beneficial because they. So we have to see what she wants with sponge cities. What's the benefit? What's the positive she or he, I'm not sure about the gender here, is talking about. Now we see this name mentioned right here. So we're going to read this paragraph. And this is where interpretation and understanding plays a key role. Let's do it together and I'll show you how I do it in a very effective way, which works really well for me and it works for our students. It should work for you too. So Dr. Wang, a leading urban ecologist, insists that the sponge city paradigm offers a refreshing departure from traditional impermeable concrete jungles, which exacerbate urban influx and intensify flood risks. Lots of things here, but that's where I'm going to interpret, right? I'm going to comprehend this my way and understand. Basically, and again, you need good vocabulary to understand all of this, so make sure you practice your vocab. We have lots of videos here on how to do that for a CELPIP. Basically, this doctor says she's an ecologist and she's saying we should have sponge cities, and we'll see what that means in a sec. And that's different from what we have traditionally had. And we've had basically concrete jungles. So now imagine this. Okay, concrete jungles, what does she mean? Because you need to understand the idea. She's talking about buildings, too much urbanization. Okay, so she doesn't want that. And she's saying that exacerbates, makes it worse, the urban influx and intensify flood risks. So urban influx, not really sure what she means here by influx. Is it people influx or is it flood influx? I don't know. Not gonna get stuck on one thing. But basically the flood risks is what she's trying to minimize by using the word sponge. It's related to flood, probably related to water, and we'll keep reading to see what that means. But so far, what do I understand? And that's the question you want to ask yourself. What do you understand? Well, it's something to do with water management, it seems, and she is going to create something different from just urban buildings that is going to manage flood risks better. That's what we understand, right? Good, let's keep going. Here it says she elucidates that integrating natural elements such as whatever, bayous, whales, vegetated slope channels that capture clean runoff. You don't want to get stuck too much with technical terms, just ignore it. Basically, she's explaining if you integrate natural elements, then what happens? Okay, let's look at that main idea. It serves dual purposes. They enhance urban aesthetics and function as a means for ecological restoration. So this shows us that if you include those natural elements, Urban aesthetics looks, the way things look, will be better. And it's going to help ecology, environment, habitation. So that those are the two benefits if you integrate this idea, this natural elements idea, which has to do with the sponge city. So I'm guessing right now, I'm visualizing, she probably wants to build cities around water, maybe something like Venice, giving myself some examples to further enhance my understanding of this. And if you do that, maybe there's going to be animals, maybe there's going to be vegetation and good for farming maybe. That's probably what she is getting at. Just making some ideas, trying to understand and interpret the logic. Let's continue. However, she cautions that transforming existing cities into sponge cities is a multifaceted challenge. Logistical constraints, policy considerations, and financial investments are significant barriers. Now, again, you don't want to be too stuck with the list. Basically, the idea here is there are challenges. Now, if I go to the questions and the questions are in between this, and this, I'm going to read that in more detail. But so far, I am interpreting, getting an idea. Overall, let's do one summary of the whole thing. She is someone who wants sponge cities, which is different from the old patterns, and this will the old style, it says, exacerbates the flood risks. So this style will make flood risks lesser. She's saying if you do this, if you do these methods, which are very specific, urban aesthetics will be nice, and the ecological restoration will be good, but there are some challenges. Good. You have completed step 1. You have understood it, explained it to yourself at multiple times, making the understanding even better. We imagined visuals of this, thinking how this would look if we are producing this city. And we kind of looked at it from this doctor's perspective, because we're trying to understand where she's coming from. This is very important later on too, in parts 4 and 1, when you have a comment section, which is based on a third person talking, and you would need to know where he is coming from or she is coming from based on how he or she interprets these people coming from. So again, it's all about interpretation and understanding. So you have done that right now. If you have, good job. That is step 1. Step 2, we're going to enter it right now. The question here says, Dr. Wang believes sponge cities are primarily beneficial because they. Now, without even opening the drop-down, we can kind of answer this, right? She's saying that it's good for ecology, environment, it is also going to reduce flood risks, and it's a modern way of thinking. Cool. Now let's open the options. We already know pretty well right now, because our understanding is so good, we know what the answer likely will be. Let's check out the first answer. Facilitate urban biodiversity. Now, urban biodiversity, that word was not mentioned, but she did mention ecology, which does enhance biodiversity. So it is a good answer. She's trying to facilitate it. Looks like the answer. We'll see if we can find something more specific. Restore ecological equilibrium. Now, restore and ecological, these words are right here, guys. Restoration and ecological. So she was talking about that. But look at this word here, equilibrium. That means balance. Was there any balance mentioned anywhere here? No. Was there an imbalance that we're trying to correct? No. So it's, again, not very clear. But yeah, it looks like if there's balance, then technically that will help us enhance the urban stuff and help in restoration. So very close, but here I'm going to make a decision. A or B? A. A is something that is more general in a way that it will include something like restoration and aesthetics and the floodwaters when you say something like facilitate. So that would be better. Equilibrium is just too much about balancing, and the balance or imbalance, nothing of that sort was mentioned. Option C, contribute to aesthetic vegetation. And this is where CELPIP confuses you, because you see this word aesthetic and it is contributing to aesthetics, right? Urban aesthetics right there. But then it's not saying aesthetic vegetation, which means the veggies, the farms, the crops would look nice, would look pretty. So no, it's not aesthetic vegetation. If it was about aesthetic, I would pick this answer maybe. Look at the last one, advance environmental restoration. Now this one is very exact. It is talking about the ecological restoration, which synonymously you can say is environmental restoration. Same concept. Plus it's using the word advance. Are we not advancing it? We are. She first mentioned we're departing from traditional concrete jungles, which means we're advancing, moving to something modern. We're talking about restoration, making it better. They enhance this stuff. So this would again work towards the word advance. And this now looks to me as the most viable option compared to the last viable option I had, which was A. My biggest argument there is this is talking about biodiversity, which is not exactly environmental. Even this one, environmental, is not exactly ecology. There are minor differences, but it reflects that much more. And when we're talking about advancing, the biggest thing was how she mentioned the first, she or he, I'm not sure what the gender is here for this name, but how it was mentioned that we're moving or departing from the previous classical styles to the new ones. So now I have two places and I can be exact, and just like I'm telling you right now, look, here is where I found the answer. This is the reason this matches specifically. This is exactly how you have to tell your brain and have this argument and discussion with your brain of which is a better match. And that's why I'm going to pick answer D, and D is the correct answer compared to A. Many people also answer B. Very close answers here, and that's where it's difficult. But we just now did step number 2, if you realized it or not. We looked at all the options, and this time we went to the specifics. We said, is this word mentioned? Where's the hint of that? Is equilibrium mentioned? No. Is the opposite of equilibrium? No. Vegetation? No. But this one, even though this is not mentioned in the exact words, which it's never going to be, but it's very close. It's 90% match, and that's the closest we have gotten so far. I'm going to pick this option. Let's reiterate. We did two things. First, we looked at the place where the answer is, and we understood it, explained it with a visual, explained it in our head. And here in step 2, we looked at the options to figure out a specific answer that could be traced back exactly. Where you, if you were in my class, you would say, sir, here is the question, here is the place where I can find it, and these are the reasons where I can find it. These are the exact sentences matching these options. And there you go. So you want to have this discussion with yourself in the exam. Once you do this at home slowly. Practice this. Better yourself at this. But in the exam, you want to have these discussions faster. And if you want more practice and guidelines like these, please subscribe to our channel, check out our course in the description, and please like and share. I really appreciate it.